So, thank you. As Arthur said in the introduction, I work for Dapresy, and we do online reporting, or deliver an online reporting system. So I'm going to be somewhat of a missionary here and talk a little bit about why I think, from the experience I have, online deliveries are superior to static, like PowerPoint deliveries, and a little bit of what to think about. And so let's see if I can. Here we go. So why is an online delivery better than a static offline delivery like PowerPoint? Well, a PowerPoint delivery often looks like this. You have your questions, you create charts and tables on the slides in the PowerPoint, and then you have to reproduce those slides for different countries, different brands, different demographics. It can basically turn into hundreds of slides in PowerPoint that the users or the client has to browse through. It takes a lot of time to create all of these slides, and it's never enough. The clients always come back to ask, can we see this for this demographic or for this target group as well? So the PowerPoint is always expanding with time. It's static and contains a lot of information that will never be used by anyone, because you have to add all the information to the PowerPoint deck, even no matter if it's needed or not. So in my view, there is a better way to deliver survey results, and that's the online way then. So, for example, in this case, you can start by selecting a layout template. Most tools have this. Then, instead of just having slides next to each other or in a sequential order, you can add in different sections in an online portal for different question areas, or for different functions, or for different people, which make the navigation more friendly, and the users will be able to go to the section that they are currently interested in. Then you create a few key pages with the questions, the metrics and KPIs that you need, charts, tables, infographics, whatever it might be. And then you use something that we call dynamic filters. So in the example picture here, we have, it's difficult for you to see, but we have country, gender, age, and what kind of fast food eater the respondents are. And with these filters and the key pages, you can basically deliver the same information as in a 1,000-page PowerPoint deck. But the users will be able to go in and say, okay, I want to see this data now for the UK, or I want to compare UK to Sweden, etc. And this makes it easier to modify and maintain. So if the client comes back to you and says, I'd like to see the results also for this segment, then you spend a couple of minutes adding a new dynamic filter so they can see the results for that, instead of having to create 15 new slides. It's dynamic, and therefore gives the user the information they need in a certain situation. Instead of having to browse through all of these slides, they can just, okay, this is what I'm interested in. It updates automatically. As Tracy said, you work often with respondent level data. So you upload your data file, and then the results in the dashboard are automatically updated based on the new data that's imported. So instead of having your data file, creating aggregated cross tables, then creating charts, add those to the PowerPoint, you just upload new data, which means that if you have a delivery, you can start creating everything with just a few interviews. Then when fieldwork ends, you upload the final data set, and everything is basically good to go for being delivered to the client. If something goes wrong, you don't have to rework all the slides. You just upload the correct data file, and off you go. And all the information can be found in the same place, and the users know where to find it. So instead of, if a client wants to go back and see they did a campaign or something, some action taken in June, where is the PowerPoint file for the June data? Instead, they know where to find all projects they have, all data, and the type of So what should you then think about when you're moving from a PowerPoint delivery to an online delivery? Well, the first thing, and I've seen many examples of this, is don't replicate PowerPoints online. So remember all the slides. Do not create all these slides in an online dashboard. Instead, use the different filters and the different sections and drill down possibilities that the online media will give. And don't be bound by the limitations that's there in traditional reporting. So if we take this example here, this looks like a very traditional slide, charts, tables. But in this slide here, we have dynamically calculated benchmark values. So in this case, it's for a fast food chain, and this specific report is for the Los Angeles restaurant manager. So she can see her results for different question areas or different questions, but then also for the company as a total. And this is dynamically calculated by the system for this manager, but also for all the other managers in the company, without any manual working, getting those numbers. Down here, you can see small chili fruits that are colored based on rules that are set up. So it can be colored green if this manager is performing according to target, or red if it's below. And this is also dynamically calculated. In this case, for this restaurant chain, you can have a restaurant filter up here, where you can give different users access to their own restaurant, the restaurant managers. And therefore, you don't have to create this slide for all managers or for all restaurants. You just create it once, and then you give different managers access to their own restaurant, and perhaps with benchmarks. You can add in perhaps small analysis tools, where you can drill down into the information if you want the users to be able to do that. And let's see, say the client sees here that, or the manager sees that here we are really underperforming. Why could that be? They can click and drill down into the information to, for example, see open-ended comments or more detailed views. All of this is possible in at least several online reporting. So next thing is, don't show everything to everyone. It's very tempting to deliver as much as possible to as many as possible, but since users are very different, and I think Tracy mentioned this earlier, if we take this example, this is an overview dashboard for the Chico's Cantina company. This view is probably suitable for most employees at the company. They can get an overview of how the company is doing compared this year to last year, see some overview information. But then we have the manager that I had in my previous picture here. She should be able to see information for her store, so she should be able to drill down one level further. Whilst in the company there might also be heavy users that really wants to dig into the data and do more cross-tabbing or to find more complex and detailed patterns and findings. So give different users access to different things based on what kind of role they have and what needs they have. And highlight what's important for the users. The online media allows for this. So in this example, for a brand tracker, this person that logs in here can very clearly see which of the countries that are performing well and which are not performing so well. You can see pattern in the map because there are dots colored based on expressions, so that you can see which countries are performing well and which are not. Another example can be that you have an alert system based on the data that's imported. So this user that has logged in here can see here, for example, let's say these are unhappy customers. You can see here today we have had 14 unhappy customers. So I should handle those, click there, and get a more detailed view of those customers, what they've said. And then you can do follow-up activities. You can follow up how different parts of the organization handle deviations, etc. So by highlighting what's important for each person that logs in, that creates proactivity and gives the client more value from the survey. you should use a combination of graphical reporting and more traditional charts and tables. When I pitch our software, since it's very flexible in the outputs, I always show pictures like this one, the airplane. An infographical approach, and infographics are very good when you want to tell a story or engage the viewer and highlight important things, like an overview. And a dashboard like this one, with some filters, will give the information needed for most users. But for the users that needs a more comprehensive view to find more detailed and complex information, charts and tables are still the superior way of delivering it. So when should you then use an online delivery? Well, there are no rules for that, of course, but here are some thoughts that I came up with when I was doing the presentation or creating the presentation. One obvious situation is when you have a continuous survey, like a brand tracker or customer feedback or customer experience program, where you continuously need a data update. Then you can save a lot of time, you reduce the risk of errors, and so on. Projects where you would like, or where you would have to create a lot of similar reports with different data content, employee satisfaction reports, customer satisfaction reports, where you can create very similar slides, but different people at the client company should get different parts of the data set. When distributing to a wide audience in different countries, different regions, for instance. When the client has knowledge to do ad hoc queries in the data on their own, you can give them access to an interactive dashboard or cross-table tool or such, so they can make the findings themselves instead of having to ask you or the research agency. When you want the client to act fast on data findings, like in my previous example. But also for qualitative studies, where you want to report, for instance, social media in real time, present videos and audio files, or when you want to be able to drill down into open comments by the respondents. When the client has a lot of projects, so they can easier find what they're looking for. So instead of having all of these PowerPoint files, emails, and etc., they always know where to find the latest information, where to find also historical information. And when there is a need for benchmarking and comparisons between projects, like advertising campaign follow-ups, you want to see how well different campaigns did. So then it can be useful also for smaller ad hoc projects. And depending on the cost model for the system and the time it takes compared to set up, for example, a PowerPoint slide. I mean, if you have a cost model where it's not a cost driver to use the system for a new project, and you are as efficient creating a dashboard as a PowerPoint slide, then you can of course use the online system. I'm gonna wrap up with a couple of examples where online reporting has enabled good delivery. And the first one I have is for a travel agency. It's a customer experience or customer feedback, where the travel agency collects email and addresses when the travelers book their trip. Then once the clients come home, 3 days after that, an email goes out with the questionnaire. It's filled out, and each night new data is fed into the reporting system. So every day, hundreds of hotel managers, destination managers, airline people, etc. can find fresh information, and they can act immediately on deviations and things that aren't very good. So for example, a hotel manager can see immediately if the visitors are unhappy with the cleaning, for example. They can say this was due to us bringing in this new company for doing the cleaning. We have to manage that or handle that in some way. The next example is for a grocery store chain with stores, a lot of stores, hundreds of stores, and a mystery shopping project where they have people visiting the stores on a regular basis, setting scores for different areas in the store, giving open comments, and also taking pictures with their mobile phones of different parts of the store. So each month, the store managers can log in here and see exactly what went on in the store that day when the mystery shopper was there. They can see pictures of if the fruit counter wasn't fresh or something of the entrance wasn't clean. And they can very easily act on this and then try to improve to next month. The regional managers can see which stores that are underperforming and put some extra efforts into bringing them up to speed. Third example, a global brand tracker for a telecom company. They have results for 14 countries. And when you have a situation like this, it's often that the local management, they have local vendors. It's often so that the reports turn out to become a very locally adapted report. But when using a system like this, the data will be gathered into the same format, into one central platform, and the results will be delivered in the same format. So it's easy for central management to deliver this to the boards and so, and see where we are or where the company is performing well and not. And also the local companies can get their results and compare themselves to others in a structured way. And the fourth example is for a company, a logistics company that wants to see their media image or how they are newspaper articles and how if their brand is mentioned in a positive way or in a negative way and some other breakdowns. So the users, they log in, they can see different newspaper articles where their company has been mentioned. They can click on that part here. Difficult to see in this picture, but here are different newspaper articles. You can click there and that takes you to the actual article on the website itself. And there I think my time is up, so thank you for that. Let's see if there are any questions at the end.